Dr. Giampapas and the Healthy Cell Clinic, it focuses on what we can do to intervene. You want to intervene in the process of aging during the first, 95% of your lifespan, of your mature life cycle. So he has, and I'm happy to say, he has received numerous awards and recognitions in the field of anti-aging. He's the leading expert. And I think today you will be very pleased to share his rather exciting work in the area. So it is my pleasure to introduce again, I would say, Dr. Giampapa for you. Thank you very much.
I do have to say, I apologize, I didn't introduce Michael. This is Dr. Michael Nobel. Michael Nobel runs the Nobel Family Sustainable Trust. You're familiar with his great-grandfather, and Dr. Nobel and I have had the pleasure of being in China for over 2 weeks as the guests of some of our other esteemed guests here, talking about the aging dilemma, not only in China, but globally. And one of those solutions is how do we keep people healthier longer rather than treating their diseases. And we had the opportunity to interact with researchers from all over China and many other countries. So today we'll give you an overview of what we're already using here in the US.
So anti-aging is when we are able to actually have cells age better than the normal, or actually slower, if you will. And with that, we've started to learn how to use phytochemicals, certain compounds that actually can alter gene expression, and particularly DNA damage and DNA damage rates and DNA repair rates. Age reversal is about how do we actually get into the software of the cell so we can change that and actually reverse the cellular aging process. We've done that, and I'm going to show you evidence and proof of that.
So let's take a look at Stembank. Stembank is a company we created a number of years ago that has been designed to help you prepare the process of collecting your cells, store your cells, when desirable, multiply specific types of stem cells, and then offer cell therapy in a legal and appropriate environment. So every step along the way, we've really tried to create the highest quality process in how you can collect and store your most important asset today, which are your stem cells.
There's over 2,000 clinical trials today in the U.S. underway, investigating all of these things, disease processes and complications that you see on the left. Again, the secret here is collecting those cells. But the biggest question I have from physicians and patients is, well, gee, Dr. G, why should I collect my cells? I've heard I can't use my cells in the United States. Well, the unfortunate truth is that about 2 years ago, every one of your stem cells were made drugs, which is a little contradictory because you can get a blood transfusion, you can get your white cells, your platelets, your red cells, it's all legal, but you can't get your stem cells, which happen to be a fragment of your white blood cells. Now, why is that? Okay, well, we won't get into that, but the real situation is your cells are drugs, and up until the very recent time, the question was, why would I collect them if I can't use them? Well, we're going to answer that question as we go along. You can use them. More importantly, we'll teach you how to keep the stem cells you have now in better health, so when you do need them, they'll be much better regenerative capacity. So when we talk about stem cells, and again, I'm going to go over this. This is kind of the tip of the iceberg, but some of you may know this, some of you may not. There's 3 major types of stem cells that are in your body. Your hematopoietic stem cells basically give rise to your blood, your immune cells, and more importantly, your ability to fight off infections. And years ago, people would say, died of natural causes at 80 years old. They died because their stem cell pool, their T cells, their B cells, their T killer cells, they didn't have any more left because their stem cell pool was depleted. Your mesenchymal stem cells, okay, these give rise to fat, muscle, bone, cartilage, ligaments, and frankly, some people think even other things, even neuronal tissue. Those decrease every decade. You lose more and more and more. And frankly, I don't know how many people here are exercise fanatics, but I used to be I'm in the gym every day, but I used to work out a little too much. When we build up muscle when we're young, you work out for a half hour or 45 minutes, you get in shape like this. You hit your 30s, it's a little harder. You hit your 50s, you go. Oh, why am I doing this? You hit your 60s, it's like, Jesus. And then you're taking testosterone, you're taking all this other stuff, and you still say nothing's happening. The real reason is your mesenchymal stem cells used to be called satellite cells. Okay, they're in your muscles. Those satellite cells, which we now know are mesenchymal cells, not only decrease in number, but they get damaged. So even if you're exercising, your muscle doesn't respond to new growth. If you can boost your mesenchymal stem cell number, you gain muscle mass like you can't believe. And that's going to be a major asset for the aging population in the future. Endothelial progenitor cells are what are involved in growing new blood vessels. And I'm going to show you some videos where people who were on the heart transplant list with one injection not only regrew new blood vessels, but their heart muscle was functioning normal again. Which means no more transplants, no more bypasses for the future. Can we go back there for a second? And so, in summary, every one of us a decade ago would have died from either immune suppression, lack of body composition, muscles, bones, and joints, or blood vessels that actually shriveled up and didn't get to your heart, brain, or lungs. That's all gone. Basically, everybody in this room will probably never have to deal with that again. Next. So, we talked about this before. It's the ratio, right? So when we're young, we have tons of stem cells, good quality. Good quality, tons of stem cells, perfect balance here. The right genes are turned on, the right numbers of stem cells, and they're functioning great. Now we're decreasing in stem cells and decreasing in function. Now we're in big trouble, it's almost over. Here's what we want to do. Go back here, and go back here. Increase the number and increase the quality of those cells. Every year in my office, I get 50, 60 million of my stem cells back to boost my number up. I've been doing that for the last 3 years. Okay, 2 years ago, for the first time, period, in the history of science, we took 80-year-old stem cells and functionally turned them back into 30-year-old stem cells. Okay, there's like 15 of us in the planet who's had their stem cells completely restored back to 30-year-olds. I haven't taken those yet, but that's in the near future. So, but the point of the matter is that we now have the ability to undo one of the biggest genetic defects that humans have been designed with. So let's look at that in a minute. Right here. So you're born, embryonic stem cells create fetal stem cells, create your adult stem cells. Your body develops, your somatic cells. You become an adult. Those cells start to get damaged, they start to decline in number and function, and you die. That's aging. Some of those adult stem cells get senescent. That's what creates your chronic diseases, and that's what creates cancer, but it also accelerates the loss of these cells. So this is a closed loop system. So there's a big genetic flaw. It's like buying a car. You get one tank of gas, but there's no gas lid. Go out and drive that car. You drive it slow, you're going to go 800 miles. You drive it like a Ferrari, you're going to go 150 miles. Same thing that happens if your lifestyle is one where you're taking drugs, you're smoking, you're not exercising, you're eating at McDonald's. Your body tissues get worn down quickly, your stem cell pool has to be called in to repair them, and you use your tank of gas about your stem cells quicker, and you die quicker. All bodybuilders die quicker because they've used up their stem cells to build abnormal amounts of muscle, which you really don't need, and what happens is they deplete your stem cell system. If you have a chronic disease, it'll deplete your stem cell system. Your stem cell quality is quicker. So how do we fix this? Okay, you got to be able to repopulate or put back stem cells in, which I'm going to show you what we're doing. And then what happens is we can shift the ratios of these senescent cells down and the healthy cells up at the moment, and in the near future remove the senescent cells, so you're actually reversing the aging process. Okay, next one. So right now, prior to collecting, what we do is we put people on Healthy Cell Pro and ideally the other two products if they have any signs of a very crummy, if you will, lifestyle. This, basically, we like to get people on this for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks because we know, based on the tests we've already run, in 4 to 6 weeks we can drop their DNA damage rates dramatically, which means the damage to their stem cells and their somatic cells, we've actually helped collect better quality cells, number one. Next. Okay, so we start with a medical history. We do some blood tests that look at infectious diseases. We look at your standard SMACs, SMAC 18, and we look at blood typing. We look at there's a whole protocol of tests we take, which are not maybe 3 test tubes. We schedule a collection date within 30 days. We put you on our our DNA repair product, our cell health product for at least a month. Okay, ideally, and there are people who want to be done quickly, but that's the ideal thing. We use Neupogen, GCSF, granulocyte collagen stimulating factor. It is a hormone that's been used for over 30 years for bone marrow collections. Phenomenal safety record, and it's been out there for years. It's actually been out there so long it's off patent now. Why is this important? There are other agents that are used to mobilize your stem cells, that is to take them out of your bone marrow so that your blood vessels fill up with them. Well, when we did our research, we were looking at different mobilizing agents, and most of the mobilizing agents will release your stem cells, healthy ones and senescent cells. We don't want senescent cells. We happen to find out that when we use Neupogen, you only release healthy cells. So all our patients only get collected with Neupogen. The morning of the test, we look at your white blood cell count. And bang, you just had your cells collected last week. So Peng's white count was 5.0. 3 days after Neupogen, he was 26,000. Okay? So we like to see a 4 to a 5 times, a 3.5 to 5 time mobilization ratio to know we're going to get a lot of good cells. So that's a test we use. For some reason, if people don't mobilize, and maybe 2% don't mobilize, we won't collect them because we get very, very, very few. And that's something that's on our consent, but it's almost never happened. I've never seen it yet. But so we look at these tests to make sure we prep you and we get you ready. Next. So how does this work? And we'll show you a picture in a minute. So basically, this is very similar to a dialysis machine, but it's not the same thing. We put an IV in your left arm. Okay, it goes into the filter. Now, you've been mobilized now. So you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of stem cells floating through your body. And I'll tell you how that feels in a minute. It goes through the filter. The filter's set at a specific filtration size and rate and filters out just specific fragments of white blood cells, which include hematopoietic, endothelial, and mesenchymal stem cells. The rest of the blood goes back into your other arm, so it's a big loop. And over 3 hours, 3 hours and a half, we actually recycle your complete 4 liters of blood at least 4 times. So it's it's virtually painless. We sit you in a nice massage chair. You can hit the button and choose your feet, your back, or a whole combination massage. You can watch TV, you can watch a movie, or you can be entertained by us, who will discuss a bunch of other things with you. So this is the collection process, and basically you go home. Bone marrow collection, I don't know if anybody's ever done a bone marrow collection here. Drilling a hole into your iliac crest under local anesthesia or general anesthesia is usually not the most enjoyable experience. Some people say they have not so much pain, some people limp for 2 or 3 weeks. You don't have to do that, and you have a much higher incidence of complications and infections. Okay, good. So here I am getting my stem cells collected. Here's Douglas, my son, getting his stem cells collected. And for his birthday one year, he said, "Dad, what are you getting me? When are you getting me?" I said, "I'm going to get you the best present. You get to enjoy the rest of your life." A new car? No, we're going to see. I'm going to say, "The iPod? What is it, Dad?" "Come to the office. I'm going to show you." So, but I want you to take this medicine for a few days before because it looks like you're getting a cold or something. He comes to the office, I go, "You're getting stem cells collected. Guess what? I'm going to freeze the aging process for you. You're 30 years old. I'm going to take a part of your body. You're never going to age again. And you're going to always be able to go back to that whenever you need your 30-year-old self and use that to stay healthy as longer than most people ever know." So he knew my father, who died at almost my age from chronic diseases. He knew that there was heart disease, there was cancer in our family. He goes, "I'm in, sit me down." So he was really, really good. He did that. And by the way, his stem cells have been used to reprogram my stem cells, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, yes. So there was a little selfish reason behind this. I knew I needed a subject, so I sold it to him under that situation. Okay, let's take a look.
Stem cells are what scientists call certain cells that can transform into any type of cell or tissue in the body. The most versatile of this primitive type of cell is an embryonic stem cell, which can morph into anything from blood and bone to muscle, skin, even brain cells. Trouble is, the source of these stem cells is human embryos, which is why they have become so controversial. But Michael Carlott and Bernard Van Zyl were treated with adult stem cells that came from their own bodies. Here's how it works. Turns out everyone's bone marrow contains stem cells, adult stem cells. But how to get them out in large enough numbers to be useful? Both Mike and Bernie received injections of a natural hormone that stimulated their bone marrow to make and release millions of adult stem cells into their blood circulation. Then a special machine extracts and concentrates these adult stem cells. The beauty of this approach is that these are what doctors call autologous, meaning it's their own cells, with no chance for rejection and so no need for powerful anti-rejection drugs.
Not only will these cells be able to be used for what we now consider inevitable processes of aging that we treat with medicines, but we will be treating them with our own cells if we take the opportunity to store them now.
Dr. Vincent Giampapa is the medical director of the Giampapa Institute in Montclair, New Jersey, and the co-founder of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. He believes in the potential of adult stem cells so strongly that he's collected and banked his own stem cells with NeoStem, as well as opened a center for stem cell collection. Dr. Giampapa believes that the sooner you bank your stem cells, the healthier and more useful they'll be for the many things that stem cells will be able to do in the near future, from facial rejuvenation to treating diseases from arthritis and cancer to heart disease and diabetes.
The secret here is to try to harvest and keep your cells in storage. Freeze a part of yourself in time so that you can take advantage of these new technologies and research as it develops. So that's why I think to me, it's one of the most exciting things we could be doing, not just for the cosmetic purposes, which I think will be, without a question, innumerable, but more importantly, quality of life issues as we age, wellness as we age. So one of the key messages here is, when do you get your stem cells collected? What we know now, at about 25 to 30, your gene expression starts to change, your DNA damage starts to accumulate, and so does those senescent cell ratios. But up until about 40, you're in pretty good shape. So one of the best gifts you can give your children is the opportunity to have their cells collected at this early age, because they will not have to go through a process that we've, as I said, already done. If they're 50 or older, those cells are going to have to be restored, both their genetics and their functional quality. So really the ideal groups for stem cell connection prior to aging or optimal aging is up to about 40. And then from then on, from roughly 50 on, you really, the sooner you get them collected, the better. But then we know we can take them through a new process that we've developed in the near future and then be able to use them for therapeutic reasons. So right now, what else do we do? We're the only center in the country that collects blood, all three cell types from blood, but at the same time we collect from fat. So you say to me, well, why would we have to collect from fat when we just collect it from blood? Well, when we collect from fat, we get just one type, mesenchymal stem cells, okay? And if we do it at the same time, because we gave you Neupogen, there's a dramatically increased number of stem cells in your fat, because those stem cells have been released from the bone marrow and they're circulating through your body. We then collect the fat cells. I'm going to show you the products we make out of them. Those stem cells are isolated, stored, and when you need them, you can ask us to do one of two things. You could say, gee, my stem cells, I need 2 billion of them. And in about 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, you'll have 2 billion or 10 billion. And that's enough that you'll never have to use them again. So mesenchymal stem cells can be used for ligament injuries, bones, joints, tendons. We now know they actually enhance a body composition with muscle if people are really losing muscle mass. We even, the new evidence is dramatic improvements in neuronal and brain function. But again, ideally for aging, we want to have all three of our blood cells types given back, because we want to be able to benefit from the three key processes that usually cause us all to die, are the immune system, the loss of blood vessels, and again, body tissues. So go ahead. So how do we collect this at the same day? I have people, actually there's people in this room who had their blood cells and their fat cells collected the same day, which is the ideal way to do this. So
follow Jim through the procedure.
Anyway, so this is the liposuction part.
Liposuction? What happened to extracting stem cells from bone marrow?
And from the bone marrow, maybe you can get 1 million cells perhaps at the most. With our procedure, we get 60 million cells.
From fat.
From fat. This to me is liquid gold.
That's it.
Yep.
Wow.
He's more excited at the moment about how his
So, yes, so what we do is we do this under local anesthesia. And yes, you get a little fringe benefit. We can take it from your tummy, your medial thighs. Ideally, the most largest number of stem cells are in your periumbilical area, your medial thighs, and then your flank areas. So there's usually a little cosmetic benefit to removing these two. And frankly, I have my good friend here, Dr. Posner, who does a lot of liposuction here in Florida. A lot of the doctors aren't taking advantage of the fact that they could be storing these stem cells when they're doing a procedure and finish their cosmetic procedures. And this is a major adjunct to future wellness and longevity as well. The other thing about bone marrow collection, now people say, well, I can collect them from bone, or you can collect them from your skin, or you can collect them from your blood. The only technique we know that gives you just non-senescent healthy cells is from your blood using this technique. And then, for instance, bone marrow is a good source, but you're going to get old cells, young cells, partially damaged cells. Okay. So when we collect the fat, again, that fat tissue can be stored, and we remove kind of the old fat cells, and we end up with like a clear fluidish called stromal vascular fracture. So we can store it on that, and that can be used for joints, ligaments, or cosmetic procedures. If we take it to the next step, we isolate the stem cells, and then it looks like a little red pellet. If we take it to the next step, we can take the red pellet and turn it to 50 tubes of the same stem cells. And we take it to the next step. In the laboratory right now, we have selective media that will take those stem cells, turn them into fat cells, cartilage cells, or bone cells. And then they go back to storage, if that's what we want. Unfortunately, it all stops here because in the US, these are drugs now. 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, they were not. The story will continue in a minute and how we're going to use those. Go ahead. Okay, so let's see for right now, for instance, mesenchymal stem cell. Now, this was a combination of all three stem cells. Go ahead. So what happened here was these cells via a catheter are injected into a patient who had a severe heart attack and a major infarction, lost about 30% of his functional heart, and was on a transplant list. You don't have the. So basically what he's telling you is his heart function later on took him off the transplant list and he was able to jog and run again after one treatment. Okay, where else are the cells used? Well, obviously if you're a celebrity or a sports person, you run into more wear and tear on your body. Bartolo Colon, okay, who suffered some major injuries with his throwing arm, with one treatment in the Dominican Republic, went back from the non-playing list to become a 2013 All-Star pitcher. Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles tendon, usually the end of your career. Had his treatment, actually a couple of times, went back, full recovery. Peyton, was it Peyton Manning? Or his brother? Peyton Manning, okay. He suffered his neck trauma so bad they told him don't ever go back and play football, you'll be quadriplegic. He was treated in Germany also, missed one season, came back, became, again, a 2013 NFL MVP. So what we're looking at is if these people who have severe stress on their bodies can recover and function at this level, what can an average person do? Without a question, this is going to be the future for orthopedic, ligament, joint, a number of other areas. Okay. So when the cells are stored, the key thing is to have a process that is a protocol and that meets all the highest standards. Stem cells are transplanted to a GMP lab where they're cleaned and processed and then they're stored. Okay, so it's not, what we take out of that collection process isn't the final product. Those have to be cleaned, stored, and filtered. 25 milliliter cryovial, little like 20 tubes we have with your name on it, and then we have one 500 milliliter bag, which basically will completely restore your immune function if you had a major problem. The cells are separately stored in special cryopreservation solutions, and it's in liquid nitrogen vapor, not liquid nitrogen, because if you put the cells into the liquid, you end up with severe damage to the cells. Okay? And this is at minus 180 degrees Celsius. For those of you who've been around as long as I have, Celsius is the same as centigrade. But if you say centigrade, you sound like you're an old, you're a very, very old person. So we now switch to Celsius. Okay? these are monitored 24/7. Your stem cell collection is stored and traced to a system designed to return stem cells only to you. And by the way, it's completely anonymous. There's a special code number in a computer program, so no one knows. Madonna stem cells are labeled Madonna stem cells. Everybody has their own number. Okay. So collection and storage prices, they can range. But in general, it's a 3-hour process. This is performed by an RM. The MD is on site overseeing things, and it includes those things we just talked about. It includes the process of storage and collection, and storage fees usually for a year. This does not include the Neupogen injections that everybody requires. Sometimes your insurance companies will cover that, sometimes they won't, so we didn't add that in. This is the fee for adipocyte collection. This includes the special kits, the operating room fees, the surgeon's fees, and 1-year collection as well. So when you look at different types of stem cells, why would you collect from blood, why would you collect from fat, bone marrow, or skin? Basically, when we look at apheresis, we get excellent quality, quantity, therapeutic potential, very low, it's 2 little pinches for an IV. The cost of collecting is in the moderate range, and you get no senescent cells. Okay? Anybody remember why we don't want senescent cells? I hope that's the main reason, right? Now, bone marrow, okay, well, this is the only other one you get all 3 cell lines. You get senescent cells. And the cost is significant, and to me, the quality of cells are really the thing that makes the difference. Now, right now, what are we doing? Okay, so in the U.S., technically you can't get your cells back. We are running a study where we've been giving back all 3 apheresed stem cell types, hematopoietic, endothelial, mesenchymal. The people who get those back sign a consent that you're getting a blood transfusion back, which they are. And we're looking at what has this been doing alone? Well, what that's doing is shifting the ratio back, where the more healthy cells you have, basically is diluting the impact or the effect of those non-senescent cells. So people feel better, they actually look better, and their chemistry seems to be getting better. So if you have a very poor immune system, and obviously we've collected your cells years before your immune system started to falter, you literally have the opportunity to completely reboot your immune system. Joints, tendons, ligaments, and muscles are being done everywhere, particularly people saying they're using PRP, platelet extracts. So bottom line is PRP is really a mixture of growth factors and blood factors, some stem cells, but every person, it's slightly different, which is why that results may vary from patient to patient. Depends on how healthy that patient is. But it's not a pure stem cell injection. Okay, so that's probably going to be the most common immediate use approved by the FDA, probably a good 10 to 15 years from now. Next. So the best way to predict the future really is to create it, okay? And we'll go on. So what did we do already that's really going to become the near future? At Rutgers, 2 years ago, we took old stem cells and we created a special culture media where the young stem cells were sitting in a media with the old cells below. We cultured them in a specific media, and we found out that the young cells were producing certain compounds, which we then isolated, that went into the old cells, turned off their genes epigenetically, and restored the function of those cells. Okay? This was done under an IRB-controlled study, and everything was done to meticulous standards. Next. So the first thing we did is we took the old cells and we grew them on a culture dish, and you'll see that old cells, because their genes are not working optimally, they were virtually all dead at 4 weeks. When we took the cells we had, quotes, restored with the younger cells, they continued to grow and grow and grow like young cells out until we finished the study, which is about 6 months later. Now, no one had ever done that, so then the next thing we said, well, if the cells we really did reverse the aging process, we should see changes in the genes. So the genes that are involved in cellular aging are mainly the telomere genes, mitochondrial, inflammatory genes, DNA repair genes, and this has to do with cell function and be able to make copies, and senescent cell markers. So we looked at the genes of the young people, looked at the genes of the old people in our study. We then did the restoration process, and these were the key genes we looked at initially, and then took a look at the old cells again and what did their genes look like. And what you saw is the telomeres didn't change, which is what we wanted, because if we shortened the telomeres, we were concerned, or lengthened them, we had certain concerns. The mitochondrial function went up almost 3 times. Inflammatory genes went down over 100 times. The DNA repair genes went up almost 3 times. The cell copying genes went up more than twice. And the senescent cell markers, some of the key ones went down 100-fold. So basically, we were taking healthy cells that weren't senescent yet, making them healthier, and completely restored genetically them. The next thing we did, which wasn't on this slide, is we looked at were the genes producing the proteins that young cells did. Identical. So that was one of the reasons we got a nomination for a Nobel Prize at that year. Okay, next. So we talked about how bad are senescent cells. Right now, one of the things we have in Healthy Cell Pro, and I'm not going to call it a senescent cell filter, but it's a therapy to help limit senescent cells, is the best way to get rid of them is use the body's own mechanism, which is apoptosis. Remember we talked to you about, pretty much, when you think of pop, think of the cells popping open and dying, right? Apoptosis. So what happens is, Healthy Cell Pro has AC11, which is one of the only documented compounds I know, non-prescription, that dramatically augments apoptosis. So what's it doing is helping you get rid of your senescent cells. What we really need to do in the near future is create a way of removing these senescent cells outside the body, which we've already started to work on. But inside the body, we've already looked at this, creating a special vaccine that's housed in what we call a viral plasmid, a viral shell, with the antigen inside. That can be injected. It's already been done on animals. Injected into the muscle, gets incorporated into the DNA, and when that person or animal is fed a specific compound, it turns the gene on, and it makes the antigen senescent cells, and they're cleared out through apoptosis. If we want to turn it off, we can give it another compound to turn it off. And those compounds can be chosen to activate the inducer or the repressor receptor sites on that. That's not science fiction, it's already been done. So we know we can remove senescent cells. We know we can already start to remove them for the general public with Healthy Cell Pro, which is really the first step in addressing that issue. Next. So what about cosmetics? Everybody wants to know, do you want to look better? So right now, we're already taking mesenchymal stem cells, culturing them in dishes, and then removing the cells, and then what's left is the cell soup, or what we call the supernatant. Those compounds are full of segments of RNA, DNA, little packets of growth factors and proteins, which then get encapsulated in these tiny little artificial fat cells called nanospheres. They get applied to the skin, they can penetrate the dermis very efficiently, and actually start stimulating collagen and elastin. So the company we're partnered with now that stores our mesenchymal stem cells, will grow them, culture them, create a personalized skincare product for you alone based on your genetics, and the results have already been dramatically enhancing as far as skin aging goes. The other thing we're working on right now is creating specific skin serums based on stem cell growth factors for Caucasians, for Asians, and for Afro-Americans. Each has a unique kind of genetic profile. So that's something we'll be talking about and actually probably have out in the market within a year. Okay? Cosmetic enhancement. Well, everybody hears about fat cell transplants, right? They're used for the face, breast augmentation, soft tissue defects, everywhere, hands, scars. My surgery, basically every time I do a facelift procedure or face regeneration, I employ fat cells with stem cells and stem cell growth factors to not only regenerate or pull the skin tight to get rid of wrinkles, but to restore the volume and to enhance the overall result. This is an actual patient of mine who's 69 and she's 74. What happens is those transplanted stem cells, which were baby stem cells, 48 hours later become new fat cells. New fat cells produce a whole different group of cytokines and growth factors that make collagen and elastin where old fat cells don't. So if they're young cells, their skin gets younger and younger year after year, rather than keeping getting older and older. So these are regenerative facelift procedures that we're now doing. And there's a whole host. We do this with the hands, and we do this other things using the power of your stem cells. Okay, so this you really think is crazy? No. These are your bank stem cells. Your mesenchymal cells go into a new machine called a 3D printer. How many people have seen 3D printers? They print organs. You would think this was Star Trek stuff, right? Those organs can be printed and placed, and they've already been done this, placed into an animal who has a bad heart, and they have an identical heart that they've had based on their genetics, not on a transplant. There's no immunosuppressive drugs. That's already been done. Okay? So what was once science fiction is really now science fact. And I just want to show you a little video that kind of emphasizes the point of what we're talking about. Anything that we think of today in the cell arena can virtually be done with the right focus and the right finances behind it. So robots were considered, ridiculous, right? Who would have a robot? These robots sense and move and talk now. Flying cars have been here for about 8 years. Transporters, not yet, but the communicator came out just a few years after that. Uhuru's Wi-Fi, Google eyeglasses, that's 15 years prior to them coming out. The tricorder, today we have scanners that don't touch you and will tell you the same thing, your temperature, your pulse, your blood pressure without touching you. You can look at lesions on your body, go to Google, it'll tell you what your diagnosis is and what to do for it. Tom Cruise, I remember this movie came out and I thought this was really cool. No touching the computer. Well, this is what we have today, virtually the exact same thing. So when I took... So when we talk about organ restoration and anti-aging, this is a stem cell being taken from an animal, placed on the scaffold of a heart with all the tissue removed, so just the collagen scaffolds there. 12 hours go by, the tissues are starting to grow, okay? And at the end of another few hours, guess what happens? You inject that scaffold with a few more of the mesenchymal stem cells, and you have a heart that's beating based on the collagen scaffold of your original heart. So that's all been done. What this last little video script shows is from the movie Prometheus. He's looking at this tiny little, it's a cell actually, and his comment is big things come from small beginnings. Your stem cells are about the smallest piece of you that has everything that you need to stay healthy and restore and regenerate yourself. So I really think that where we are today is we're at the forefront of that vertical curve. The first thing you need to do is really focus on keeping your body cells and stem cells as healthy as you can in a cost-efficient manner. And I think that was our focus for Healthy Cell Pro, so something we can bring to the public that everybody could virtually afford to use, particularly if they're guided by their physicians. The second thing we need to do is be able to find a portal to bypass the closed door we have in the U.S. and most every other country. So where all these stem cells are, we're going to collect and restore them, where can we take them? So in Costa Rica, this has been a 9-year project. We've fully permitted this property. We're ready to get up and running and to create one of the world's most advanced stem cell collection, storage, therapy, and research center, period. So there's 278 acres of pure, healthy environment, probably the purest in the world. We have a location in New Jersey right now, collecting and storing on our protocol. We have one opening in LA in about 2 months, and we'll have one opening in Costa Rica shortly. Next. So the Stem Cell Center in Costa Rica has been designed to not only be state-of-the-art in science, but it is located in a blue zone. And the blue zones are one of the few areas in the world where people live long, healthy lives without science. So our whole goal was to create the ultimate in science in the ultimate environment where nature gives us the best chance to stay healthy as well, and put those two factors together, because after all, it's epigenetics, it's our environment, it's our science, it's our lifestyle, and what we think that really makes a difference. I've been in contact with Deepak Chopra, who said he would love to come and start doing his lectures in this location. Donna Karen in New York, who has Urban Zen, a chain of spas, I just met with her last week. She wants to get involved in bringing this type of natural therapy for both the cosmetic and wellness component to our center as well. Okay. So by the early 2020s, we will have the means to program our biology away from disease and aging, and I pretty much believe we have that now. And in summary, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So our goal is to continue to be on the forefront of the research for products that you as physicians and healthcare practitioners can bring to your patients and to yourselves, and to open up the portal so that in the near future, meaning hopefully within a year, a facility will be open in a world-class fashion where you, your patients, and people who are really in need of the power of their own cells to stay healthy or to restore their cells will be able to take advantage of that. And with that, that's a tiny overview of what we're doing. And I hope you enjoy it. So we can take a few minutes for questions while you're there, if you have enough energy. Yes?
I'm curious about what you were doing with your son and replacing his cells.
My thoughts on that are, you are your best source of mesenchymal stem cells. So again, the main reason to store while you're healthy is to have that, we call that your bioasset, okay? And you put money in the bank and you get interest. Put your cells in a cell bank, you really have got your best kind of health insurance you can for the future, because as I said, the technology is expanding so much. What we think we know now, which is a lot, is going to be nothing in 3 or 4 years. So, but you got to get your cells collected before they're damaged, and each year that you go by, they get more and more damaged.
You have a crystal ball where we should enter the game?
So what happens is you feel a little, most people feel a little achy or flu-like because those cells are going to damaged tissue. They're causing that tissue to be ruptured. It's releasing inflammatory compounds like a flu would. But instead of feeling crummy and a viral attacking you, that's really the evidence of your body being repaired. And there are doctors who just use Neupogen injections as stem cell therapy. They don't even take any out because, in essence, yes, it's helping to repair you. Okay, well, that's another issue. You have to look at, it's yearly, it runs around $700 a year to keep your stem cells in storage, which is not a lot of money, okay? They can stay, basically the tests on stored cells have only been around for about 65 years. At 65 years, they're still valuable, viable. And it's, our impression is they'll be viable for at least 100 years. But by then, we probably won't need them. We'll have some other stuff that we'll do. We'll be able to duplicate those and give you back completely new cells. Yes?
Has been studied on, say, like neurological diseases like
Yes.
ALS?
Yeah. ALS, organic brain syndrome, traumatic brain syndrome, Alzheimer's disease are major impacts with certain type of cell infusions to help slow down and even cure certain aspects of neurological diseases. Mesenchymal cells can morph into neuronal cells, but it's usually a multiple type of cell therapy. For instance, as you age, your blood vessels to your brain are not nearly as efficient when you're young, so normally you'll need endothelial progenitor cells that grow some blood vessels, you'll need mesenchymal cells that grow neurons, and the formulas to accomplish what you want to do as an end result are now all being put together at major universities for protocols for those specific types of things.
What about for aesthetic purposes?
We extract segments of DNA, RNA, put them into these micro nanospheres, which have been shown to do a major impact and effect on your skin, yes. Making new fibroblasts, making new collagen, and you look younger. I'm 103. I've been using this stuff. That's the best way to look young for your age, too, by the way, so if you tell a little fib. But all seriousness, yes, they're being used now for cosmetics, and now a lot of people are looking at a maintenance process where they come once a year or twice a year, and they get maybe 100 million of their 3 types of stem cells back. So their ratios, they keep on keeping their ratios in the right level. And we have a blood test that measures your ratio of senescent versus non-senescent cells. Now, we don't know what the ideal ratio is because we haven't done 1,000 people every decade. But we know when we give it, people feel better, look better, and their labs seem to be better. And that's one of the new studies we'll be doing on a long-term, multi-location basis.
I remember a long time ago, like 30 years ago, people used to go to Switzerland.
Yes, and what they're getting is protein therapy, which is, if they're not getting the cells, they're definitely getting something that does help to a degree. But why do sheep cells when you can do your own cells? Or younger, better versions of your own cells?
Thank you.
Any other questions? So if you want to live a healthier, longer life, at least you know what direction to look. Thanks, guys. My pleasure.
I believe today we had a truly excellent presentation. It was just the right balance between scientific proof of methodology and how to do it, even the prices and so on. So I think the whole 2-hour presentation was of considerable value to the public, which consisted mainly of healthcare professionals in this region.
This presentation blew my mind. Simply put, this is the future, and we're all always looking for a solution. What's going to help us? What's the next step? And this is it. My son is in medicine right now, studying medicine, and I am like sending him a copy of Dr. Giampapa's books just because he needs to bring this into the future, like now, like yesterday.
And completely innovative, definitely the way of the future. I think the American Medical Association needs to really get involved with more in-depth knowledge of this stem cell research. It should be commonplace for a curriculum, and definitely something that on a global level should be incorporated with all the doctors. Definitely a great presentation today.
And thank goodness for Dr. Giampapa actually bringing this to the Western Hemisphere, because I mean literally we are behind when you look at the studies and the research out there, what's available in Europe, in Asia. They're way ahead of us. They're onto this stuff, and thank you, Dr. Giampapa, for bringing this to us, because this is something that's going to finally bring us back to where we need to be, catch us up where we need to be. So thank you.
Yeah, and what better than to have your own personal natural cells to help yourself heal and do future wonders for your own body with your own natural stuff. Thank you very much.
I thoroughly enjoyed Dr. Giampapa's meeting today, or his presentation. I found it very helpful in the realm of anti-aging, epigenetics, and the future of modern medicine, which is obviously changing. Also, I think that this will be very beneficial for future generations, millennials, etc., because it will give them a basis of how to, truly take care of their bodies and hopefully get away from maybe the over usage of prescription pills, etc., and maybe get us in a healthier direction and help us live healthier lives.